All right, welcome into the Chillen with the Dawgs podcast. This is your host, Justice Garber, and I'm on here with my father, Jason Garber. We'll be talking Browns, national teams, all sorts of different storylines, and this one here ran a little bit long. We got a little bit of an in-depth look at the preseason as a whole. Also went through the upcoming Browns schedule game by game, gave you some predictions on the AFC North. So we hope you guys enjoy, and you guys can start seeing our podcasts be released each Friday. Next one coming out will be on Friday the 8th, and that'll be previewing Cincinnati. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into it. All right, so the first segment we're going to be talking about here is roster cuts. We just got the roster cuts earlier today for the Browns and all the league, but we're going to be focusing on the Browns today. To be honest, I think that I was surprised by a lot of the roster cuts, but we kind of saw some of that coming. You know, Austin Watkins was probably the biggest one for me that I was bummed about. Obviously stoked that we kept Diabate and we kept Ronnie
Hickman.
Yep, Ronnie Hickman. But were there any roster cuts there that you kind of had a take on, felt that you would have kept somebody? Or
we kind of talked about this at the end of last week. The only ones that kind of surprised me was Austin Watkins.
Yeah.
And that's just because who on the team in the receiver room outperformed him?
No one giving the preseason outperformed him. Obviously, he got a lot of reps that others didn't, but...
You're not wrong there, but I don't understand why he got all those reps, performed heroically, and then gets cut.
Yeah.
Waived or whatever the heck happened.
I think that sends a message to your team that your performance doesn't really matter. Yeah, being on the field and showing out doesn't necessarily matter. It's more so what we've invested in you already, which that's not fair at all.
No, that's ridiculous.
And obviously we're talking a little bit about like David Bell and stuff like that, people who they've invested draft capital in. But I get that to a point, but you had a guy that has shown at a professional level that he can succeed. Yeah, it wasn't the NFL. He was in the USFL, but he has shown that. And then he furthermore showed it against people in the NFL, and he did it against some good talent. I mean, maybe it was against the Eagles second teamers and the Washington second teamers in some cases, but those are some of the better defenses in the league.
Right.
So, and the one defense that we went against that wasn't crazy was Kansas City. Now their first string's not bad, but as far as depth goes, Kansas City isn't the deepest defense, and he didn't.
We can talk about Kansas City's defense if you want to, because we started our starters and they looked like garbage.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
And what bothers me is everybody on the radio stations that I listen to talk about how sharp they looked. We can go down that rabbit hole if you want to, because I don't think they look sharp at all.
We'll go through that a little bit later, and I agree with you there. I think that I wouldn't say that was a Kansas City benefit, like that they showed that they have good defensive depth there. I think it was more so a lot of our starters not like kind of getting the gears turning and starting out there. I think that was a detriment on our side.
Yeah.
So
it makes me nervous about week one.
Right. Hopefully they get that ironed out over, the next week or so. But yeah, as far as the roster goes, I'm obviously happy with the 53. I think that it would have been really hard to mess up the 53. Like, you can't go and cut any of your starters, and obviously you're probably not going to cut your second string. So when you're talking about third string guys, that's, kind of a luxury if you're talking about people that you loved in the third string. And that is what I think the case was for the Browns this year. We have so much depth on that team that we had guys that we fell in love with in the preseason that might be on other teams here even in the next couple of hours. So having Watkins, who showed out during the preseason, he could be probably a third or definitely a fourth on a quarter of the league.
Well, I think that guy looked like freaking Antonio Brown to me.
Right.
And I know when Antonio Brown was kicking it and looked good and didn't go crazy yet, there was 31 other teams that would have took him in a heartbeat.
Right.
And that guy, to me, which doesn't mean anything, because I'm not Andrew Berry or Stefanski, but that guy to me looked like Antonio Brown.
Right.
I fully expected him to run over the punter kicking him in the face. I mean, seriously, that little dude ran crisp routes was open all day long, every day.
Right.
Caught everything that he could. And what do? We cut him. David Bell, which I'm not saying cut David Bell either. I think he's got potential, but come on. If we want the best 53 men on the roster, he's not one of them.
Yeah, I agree, because there's other people too that I would have kept over Bell if you had to make room for Austin Watkins. Right. Like, I not just talking about the receiver room, but I thought another one that I was really bummed about was Isaiah Thomas. I was bummed about Maurice Hurst, which
Mo Hurst is the one that bums me out,
because he looked like a freak in there.
He did. And the other one was that Lonnie Phelps, was he number 69?
63, yeah.
Yeah, I was watching the preseason game, the last one against Kansas City, and I'm like, are they ever going to take Zadarius Smith out?
I know. I thought you mistaked him for Zadarius Smith.
I'm like, that guy's played 3 freaking quarters. Get him the hell out of the game.
Right.
And you're like, oh, no, that's not.
Yeah.
He looked like him.
He did.
He was in the backfield every play.
Yeah. So a lot of these guys, I think, are going to wind up on other teams. And I think that it would be cool, maybe in a future show, we can kind of talk about where they ended up or whatever. But I'm curious to see the trajectory, especially if the Browns don't go and try to get Watkins back.
I don't think they can. I don't think he's going to be there.
No, I know. But if somehow they can, or somehow they don't, if they don't, I think that's a guy I'll definitely be following.
I'll just say it like this. I'm not going to lose sleep tonight because Austin Watkins got cut.
Right.
Michael Dunn got cut. I might because Mo Hurst got cut. But if we are going to rely on Austin Watkins.
Right. You're in a bad spot. Yeah, because he would have been, at best, your 4th receiver. Right now. And one thing that scares me in the future is, as far as the wide receiver room goes after this year, we don't have a ton of those guys next year. So having him on the team and being able to develop over the year would have been nice, because next year you might be losing Cooper. You're probably going to lose Goodwin. So Watkins could easily slide in there as your number 3. And you can keep on running, in my opinion. So forward thinking, I don't know that was something that I would do as a GM, but Barry might have other tricks up his sleeve. He might be using draft capital on another one next year. So I'm not sure. Well, actually, Cedric Tillman, too. Cedric Tillman will be there next year. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he's a big guy. What is he, 6'3"? I don't know the stats, but
I think he's 6'4".
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
I like that. But I mean, even at that,
he'll play one of your outside receivers.
I haven't watched the all 22 yet. When I do, I might change my mind.
Right.
I watched every preseason game. I watched that little number 80, Victor Cruz and Antonio Brown Jr. run through the secondary, wide ass open all day.
Oh yeah.
And I watched Cedric Tillman covered all day.
Yeah, Cedric Tillman though, his game is much more so that of what Calvin Johnson's game was. He's a contested catch guy.
I get it. But I'd much rather throw to a guy wide ass open.
You're right.
Than try to squeeze it in.
That's fair. But
I'm not saying cut him either.
Oh no.
At all, but
he's going to be a beast, I think, as well.
I think so too.
So, as far as Watkins goes, I think that is one that I'm a little bit bummed to see. But again, that's a position that I think at least this year is a strength. Whereas we saw greatness from the defense in the preseason, especially in the scheme with Schwartz's scheme there. But a lot of those guys I would have loved to have seen. I probably would have swapped out for players that they did keep. Like, for me, Hurst looked way more impressive than Jordan Elliott. Now, I know that Jordan Elliott had guaranteed money, but again, that goes back to the whole thing we were talking about, how if you have to be able to admit your mistakes. And for us, it seems like after this this cut period that they've said, okay, we're not going to just go out and admit our mistakes. It doesn't matter what you do on the field. If we show that we invested in you, then and you don't perform to what we expect, then we're going to keep you regardless. That tells a team that you don't have to go and ball out. Right. If we say if you're good, then that means you're good. And I get that you want to take care of your own and be that. And that's in the normal world, not in business, but in the normal world, that's a virtue. But I don't think that that's good on the football field. So Maurice Hurst was definitely one that I was bummed by. So let's talk about some of the people they did end up keeping. So I think Diabate was huge. And I heard one of his interviews on Cleveland Browns Daily. He was talking about, it was basically with Nathan Zegura. He was interviewing him and getting a little bit more of his background, kind of introducing the fans to who he is. And I loved that interview. His intensity, I think, is something that will be invaluable later as he takes on more of a leadership role. But his play style backs it up. I think that he's going to be a green dot guy eventually, but I think that he can be valuable even on the team this year. Right. Especially in certain packages.
Taki or Walker's going to get hurt. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Or he's going to stub his toe and be out for 3 games. We're going to need somebody to come in and fill the void. And
right.
That kid, I'm telling you what was it, the Philly game? He looked like Myles Garrett out there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he looked good.
Well, and Zegura was getting into that more, the X's and O's stuff, and he was talking about, like, on the safety, what he saw. And, I mean, he gave the perfect linebacker answer. He said, I saw the hole open. I saw the guard. He was basically saying he read the guard. The tackle was kicking out the end, and so he saw he needed to fill his hole.
So he did his job.
And he slammed through the hole, and it was obviously a perfect textbook play, but I liked the way that he spoke about it. And I liked how he talked about having, the name on his back and feeling like he's carrying it, his nation, all that sort of stuff. I like that for him, football is an honor, right. And he's going to not let people forget that, right. And hold people accountable, which I like a lot. The other one, obviously, I don't know as much about Hickman because we haven't heard much from him. But he, as far as what we've seen, and him being an Ohio State boy, he's shown some flashes.
He's a ball hawk.
Yeah, at least it looks like it, yeah. And honestly, a lot of those picks, I would say there was one that was a terrible decision by the quarterback. He just lofted it up over the middle. So that one was an easy one.
Pass it, wouldn't catch that.
That's true. That's true. And then there was a couple that he made good plays. Yeah. So we need that on this defense because the Browns the past couple of years have been lacking the turnovers. And, we haven't had a bad defense in the past. I mean, there was times with Joe Woods that we definitely did have bad defense, but that defense as constructed was solid for the most part. And then the only thing that we really lacked was turnovers. I don't think.
Are you talking about last year's defense?
Yeah.
No, you're not even close to being right on that. That defense blew.
Oh, I'm talking about turnovers. I mean, yes, that defense.
You were talking about it being a solid defense. It was not.
Well, at the end of the year, it was better.
Okay, so poor Jacoby Brissett gets to go out there and play with a half-ass defense. The great Deshaun Watson comes back into the fold, and now all of a sudden we go from a 29th ranked defense to a top 10 defense.
Right.
And it's the same freaking people, same guy calling plays.
Right.
So yes, I blame Joe Woods for that, but I blame the players even more because ball out, man.
Yeah.
Nut up or shut up. Get out there and do your job.
Right.
They weren't doing their job until Deshaun came back.
Well, I think that was due to coaching and people not holding people accountable.
Well, it's the same people.
And you remember the past couple of years with Joe Woods, they always got out to a slow start. So, yes, that sucked for Jacoby how that ended out. And that I would have been cool to see that defense all season play as they did in the last 6 games. But basically the point I was trying to get to is that we've had a lack of turnovers in the past couple years with Joe Woods' defense. Yeah. I think Martin Emerson doesn't have a pick yet in the regular season, right? Yeah. So, and those are 2 guys that are getting, a good majority of snaps in the season. So you can't be having that. So I'm hoping that this season, with the new scheme and the new players that we've gotten, that will change. And I definitely think that's going to be the case based off what we saw.
Well, what needs to happen? Well, I'm not even worried about the defense because of Schwartz.
Right.
Schwartz is butthole enough, but nice enough that those guys respect him and want to play for him. I don't think Joe Woods had that. I think everybody thought he was an idiot that played for him.
Right.
And the only reason they amped it up in the second half of the season is because they needed to. Or Deshaun's back. Or Baker's sucking, so we got to pick it up. With Jim Schwartz, that ain't going to happen. If you're not producing, you're sitting.
Right.
Or he'll cut you. And that's what needs to happen. Like, my whole thing with the guys that got waived was Austin Watkins. Looked good, played good, like you said. It doesn't, like, what they should have done is they should have cut David. Yeah. Number one, I don't think anybody else would have took him off waivers.
Right.
Because I look at him as a number 4 or 5.
Right.
So you put him on waivers. He clears waivers. Put him on a practice squad, or jockey it around afterwards. I don't know because I'm no NFL scholar.
Right.
But you've got to use that kid as an example. You ball out. I don't give a damn if you were a draft pick.
Right.
You're a 3rd-round draft pick. You suck right now. Sorry. See ya.
Well, see, that's the thing, too, for me, is I don't think David Bell sucks. I haven't seen special yet.
Exactly.
And I did see that with Watkins.
He's very underwhelming.
Right.
And the whole it's just like Miles. When Miles is taking plays off because he's Myles Garrett, he can't. That's unacceptable.
Right.
When Greedy Williams, when he's out there half-assing it, lollygagging, get him off the field and cut him. That's going to prove more to your team that you're about winning. And if I'm an NFL and I'm a starter, but I'm not Myles Garrett, I want to know that all I have to do is perform. It doesn't matter. In every, well, maybe not every other team, but I would say 80% of the other NFL rosters, it's not about where you're drafted. And if it is, right, that's wrong. You can't tell me Mike Tomlin or Baltimore is going to be like, we drafted this kid. We're going to keep him, and we're going to let Antonio Brown walk out the door.
Right, and I think that's one thing that the Browns have kind of shown. And obviously I'm a massive Browns fan. I have high expectations this year. But I think one thing that the Browns have shown is that, and this is where I think they differ from the league, is that they don't just want to win or do whatever it takes to win. They want to win in a certain way and be cute about it. What I mean by that is a lot of people are expecting us to throw the ball more this year. And a lot of people expect us to throw the ball a lot more this year. And that's the way that I think the Browns as an organization might want to win. That kind of sucks because I think the truest strength of our game is to run the ball and play good defense. And so, and I know you share that opinion as well. So I think that kind of, we foresaw that coming based off of their past, but that is just another message to the team that I don't necessarily agree with.
Well, when we come back from break, I want to touch on those 2 things you just talked about.
You're listening to the Chillen with the Dawgs podcast with Justice Garber and Jason Garber. You can catch our shows live Friday. You can catch it on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and more podcasting apps coming to you soon. All right, let's get back in the action. All right, so for this next segment, I know we talked a little bit already about holes in the roster, and we talked a little bit about what we saw in the preseason. But in this one, we're going to get a little bit more in depth. We're going to go game by game. What we saw, the highs and the lows, and then after that, we'll really delve deep into positions of need and talk about maybe some potential people that we could get in here to strengthen the roster. So first off, we'll start with the New York game. Obviously, that was the first game we saw, and we didn't get to see any of the starters in that.
Right.
That was when we started to fall in love with DTR.
Yeah, I kind of had a little bit of a man crush on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what from that game, if you remember back, what do you think were areas there that you felt like, okay, this is exciting? We first got to see Jim Schwartz defense for the first time. So,
well, the defense didn't surprise me at all. I expected that completely, even though there was second teamers. But I do think Zadarius started in that game, and I think Obo did too, and Dalvin Tomlinson played, and they looked like men amongst boys,
as they should.
And I kind of developed a man crush on all three of them too, and then that's when AWOC didn't play. JOK didn't play, I don't believe. But Fields played, looked like a man beast. The defense didn't surprise me at all.
Right.
I expected that. I don't care. I think you and I could have played defense that day and looked that good.
Yeah, the scheme is just heads and tails more efficient than what we've been running. And you can see it on the faces of the defensive players.
Oh, yeah, they love it. They love it.
And I think that's huge, and they're totally bought in.
Yep. If you listen to them talk about it too, the way they talk about that I've heard them actually talk about Joe Wood's defense. It was too much thinking, not enough reaction.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know who in the heck would even come up with that scheme.
Right.
Like, defense is not about thinking; it's about playing, reacting.
Yeah. It literally by definition.
Right. Bringing intensity. Yeah. Right. And we never did that.
And that's the thing too, is it was almost as if an offensive guy was trying to overthink and make up a defense. That's
right. It's like Stefanski was calling defensive plays. Yeah. Right.
So I completely agree with that. I think that was probably for me the biggest takeaway. A secondary big takeaway that I would say is seeing a little bit of the new wrinkles with the offense and seeing what maybe, even though it wasn't the same characters we're probably going to see, seeing how the offense has changed with people that we think can actually throw the ball. And not just, and I shouldn't say that because Jacoby definitely could throw the ball, but there was some arm talent that we have now that he just didn't either get the opportunity to show off or, we didn't have situational reasons for it. So that was definitely a big one for me. Obviously, DTR played great. I think that was the first time we got to see Watkins get some action, and that was a big one too. I remember, and he actually threw DTR threw his first touchdown to Watkins, that slant route, which I was like, I remember we were watching that, I was like, who is number 80? We both were like, who is number 80? Literally the first time we recognized him was a touchdown.
Yep.
And
he left the guy's jock on the ground.
That route was nasty.
Yep.
And that's what I've been talking about. The reason why, and I think you have the Antonio Brown and Victor Cruz comparison, is because his routes seem to have like a swagger to them.
Oh yeah.
There's great route running that's almost fundamental, and then there's also great route running that just looks different and is
it's special.
It's special.
It's special.
And that's what I saw with him. And unfortunately, we don't have him currently. So.
Well, one thing about that first game, for the whole, you and I have talked since the last game last year,
right?
How I was worried how this offense was going to look, right? Because if you go back and look at the games that we played, we ran the ball quite a bit in the games with Jacoby, but when Deshaun came in, we were chucking the ball everywhere. He's throwing the ball 10 yards in front of guys, and we are not running the ball.
Right.
And I was worried that was what our offense was going to look like. That first game with the backup quarterback, we ran the ball well, I might add, and we also threw the ball well. And I know people were talking about like the one game that Jacoby played,
he went 3 for 3 and had like Deshaun. He was 3 for 3 and had like, what was it?
12 yards.
12 yards?
Right.
And they're like, we got to throw the ball down the field. Well, come on, man. I watched Kellen Mond and DTR throwing the ball down the field.
Right.
I mean, maybe not 50 yards down the field, but 25, 30 yards down the field.
Right.
Or you take a slant pass, which every offense in the league runs a slant pass, and they complete it for 20 yards. I mean, you don't have to throw the ball in the air 50 yards to get 50 yards.
Right.
And I actually am less concerned having watched, and this was after the first preseason game. My concern with Stefanski's play calling, which I do not care for, was a little bit mitigated because I saw a fairly balanced offense, which was my biggest concern going into this year.
My concern with that, so I'll get into the Deshaun Watson stuff in the next game because we got Washington coming up. But I think that still is a little bit of a concern because then the whole thing about the preseason is you want to see everybody get work and see what they got. And so that lends itself to a balanced offense. So I think that you saw elements of what it's going to look like. But as far as the load goes and how plays are deviated, run, pass, I don't know that we know now what it's going to be like. So I'll say take that with a grain of salt because...
Well, I take everything that Stefanski does with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And I'm not nearly as opposed. There are definitely things that Stefanski does that makes me upset, but being a quarterback, I understand, you want to have plenty of opportunities to, pass the ball. That's ways that you can break the game open quickly and take control.
Well, I've seen Nick Chubb run 94 yards and break the game open.
That is true.
I mean, come on, man.
You're completely right. I get that. I think that at least how the media is pushing it, we respect the run game and know how important it is for us. So hopefully what happens is this year you see Deshaun Watson's play be good to make it so that Chubb, you need Chubb to make it impossible for people to catch up. My hope is that they are balanced, almost balanced first quarter and start taking leads. And then once they've established leads, say mid-third quarter, just run the heck out of the ball and play good defense. But I think one thing that a lot of people don't talk about enough is not just how your end game stats are balanced, but more so the fluidity of the game and where you're getting your stats at. Because I think throwing the ball early, obviously, is important to establish leads. Running the ball late to keep leads is important. And if you look at just stats at the end of the game, you can't determine how that went.
Yeah, but I'll come at you with everything you just said. Okay, but I could also run the ball early, wear the heck out of you.
Yes.
And then go over the top. And then I can throw 50-yard passes because you're concerned about running the ball. Well, so we can start passing and go 3 and out, or we can hand the ball to a guy who averages over 5 yards a carry, beat the crap out of people for a couple plays anyway. I mean, there was games last year, we come out, three passes, incompletions, and we're done. That's not how you win.
No.
And so I don't know. Like I said before, I'm not Kevin Stefanski, but I would like to think that when you have weapons across the field, Deshaun Watson, according to everybody, is a weapon. And I understand what you were saying about the workload, trying to see people.
Right.
But if I'm hoping that Stefanski noticed, hey, we're pretty damn balanced. Right. We can probably actually win ball games like this.
Yeah, I hope so too.
So I hope you're right that he did that for a reason, but I hope he also is smart enough to notice that, oh, well, you know what? That actually worked. So maybe we could actually do that.
Right.
And not throw ourselves out of games.
Right. Well, obviously, there's two different schools of thought. You want to run the ball early, wear out the defense, and also establish the play action. or there's the old saying, throw the ball to loosen up the box and run the ball. I think for our offense, the best way to do that is go to the bread and butter and run the ball first, wear out that, and keep your defense fresh. I think that's one thing.
Long drives.
Right. To me, a perfect drive, like say it's a 75-yard. Now, obviously, each drive is different, but say you have a 75 yards that you have to get to the end zone. It's a kickoff, and you start at the 25. Right. I think a perfect drive looks something like 14 plays, 6 rushes, 8 passes, or vice versa. And somewhere in that category with some deviation, I think is a perfect play. It's balanced enough, and you have plenty of plays that you take time off the clock. Because with the Browns, I think I'm hoping that, and I think for any good team, the clock is your best friend. If you're a good team, then you should be milking the clock.
Well, I would agree with that to a point. I would say the perfect drive to open the game is a 50-yard pass, a 20-yard run, and then a 25, 30-yard pass.
Right. 3
plays, out. We get the ball, we get the opening kickoff, we go down 3 plays and score. That amps everybody up. The crowd's into it, and they're like, it's freaking dog pound on steroids.
Right.
And then the defense comes out amped up. If we have a kicker now, hopefully, we never did touch on Cade York.
I was about to get into that.
But if our kicker can actually make kicks and we get good field position for our defense to make plays,
right.
I mean, you can score quick and amp up a defense that where it bothers me is when our defense has been on the other end of a 14-play drive,
right.
and they're tired, and then we come out and we throw 3 times and we punt the ball, and then our tired defense is back out on the field.
That's what I was about to bring up when you had said 3 plays, like a perfect 3-play drive early on. Then the way to continue getting that crowd pumped up is that have the defense come out and get 3 times.
Exactly.
And so I totally agree with that. But basically in that first game, we got to see a little bit of everything. We got introduced to some new characters that made us excited. And then obviously the Cade York stuff, which I won't beat him while he's down. He just got cut. So at least try not to. But the next game we have Washington. And in there we did get a little bit of the starters.
Yep.
And this is where I'll get into the Deshaun stuff I was waiting for. So everybody made at least Steelers fans made the Kenny Pickett comparison, how he had an incredible game, whereas Deshaun only threw it 3 times and got 12 yards. For me, I think that point doesn't even matter at all. For me, I think that Kevin Stefanski played that perfectly because you had a quarterback where the narrative last year was we don't know what we got with this guy. And so you want to not create any polar extreme, put him in a position where that narrative can continue and let that skepticism grow and doubt. I think for him, he normalized it, made it almost a non-factor. And you got to see Deshaun Watson, but you didn't really see anything. You got to see easy completions and know that the easy ones are easy.
The thing that I saw with that drive was, okay, he was 3 for 12 yards. The balls were on the target, on the money. I mean,
right.
They're dump offs.
Right.
But last year, in his first game last year, that's hitting the ground 3 yards in front of the receiver.
Right.
And also, I watched his feet. Last year, his feet looked like me playing football.
Like he was dancing.
Like I'm 40-something years old, and it looked like they plucked me out of the crowd, threw some pads on me, and put me out there to play offense. He did not look comfortable at all. In that game,
exactly,
he looked comfortable.
And I think that is kind of the point I'm trying to get to is you gave him the opportunity to build confidence going forward. And I think that's invaluable. And it was against a defense that's pretty good.
That's a dang good defense. And they played starters in that game to start with against our ones.
And so that gave me a lot of confidence in Deshaun. Obviously not – there's still a lot of questions that we got to get, and we're going to find that out real soon.
Real quick.
If he's going to be the Deshaun that I think he is and that he can be. But that game, I think the Deshaun one, I don't think questions were answered there really. But then the main storylines in that was...
It answered a question for me.
Yeah.
When he came out in that drive, he was comfortable.
Right. And
he did not look comfortable last year except for one half against Washington. And maybe that's just it. Maybe he needs to play Washington. But
maybe.
I mean, that's a pretty dang good defense. That's a pretty dang good defense to look comfortable against.
Right. Maybe he just saw that jersey and it's like, I tore them up last year.
Yeah, for a half. The other half, he looked like Cade York.
Right. Anyway, yeah, so honestly, that game, I thought we ended up losing in that game, which in the preseason, the totals don't matter as much as what you do in the game. I think that was the first.
Well, you got to think about it, too. The starters didn't lose. They scored and got a safety. I mean.
You're right. And the defense, okay, so let's talk about that.
Hold on. They scored 6 points. Cade York missed the extra point. And then the defense got 2 points for us, which gave us 8.
Right. That defense looks nuts.
It's crazy.
We were talking about it earlier. I know this is a Cleveland fan having Cleveland goggles on, but that defense, I think, can be very, very special. And I think that's one thing that you hear buzzing around Cleveland a lot is that defense is mean looking. So we got that. I think that's when you first saw some of Diabate flashing. I think you got a Hickman pick in that game.
Yep. Well, he had one in every game, all 3. He didn't have one in the last one.
Right. So you guys, wait, no, I think he had 2 in that game, and then one in
Philly.
Philly. Yes, that's how.
Didn't he have one in the Hall of Fame game?
I don't believe so.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I might be wrong in that, but I don't think so. I think it was 2 and 1. And then we had. Let's talk about the running backs a little bit.
Okay.
As a position group, because we haven't. We'll get into a lot of that later on, but as far as this game is concerned, I think the running backs didn't really look super special.
In the Washington game?
Yeah.
Felton looked good.
Yeah, he did average 5 yards.
He did look good.
But
John Kelly didn't look good.
Right. I guess when I'm looking at complementary backs, because that's what they'll be on the team, I want to see someone who looks exceptional at something. Looking good. I think that if you want a spell back, you want someone like, say, Jerick McKinnon, someone who is an exceptional pass catcher out of the backfield. And Demetric Felton looks good there. He looks, against the people he was playing, a decent runner in that game. But I didn't really see anything that he excels in.
The thing with Felton that I don't like is 2 things. Number one, I watched 17 games last year where he did come in the game and play.
Right.
He barely touched the ball.
Right.
There's a reason for that. Number 2 is I could tackle him sitting on my couch.
Right.
I watch too many times he gets bumped and he goes down because he's 105 pounds and 5 foot tall.
Right.
He's no like Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler's not a big dude, but he's a big dude. Like Felton is not that. Yeah, Felton is not that.
I think that Felton, that's not his game. What I don't like about his game is what I like to see in a running back. I like to see a running back hit the hole hard and make a cut.
He dances too much, man.
And yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to say. Is I think that he's not the style of running back I like, so that might be it. But I was hoping to see more so him as a pass catcher because at least the media was pushing that agenda that he could make the team as a third down back, which his blocking I don't.
Right, he cannot.
Right, but I thought, okay, well maybe if he needs some screens to pick up third downs or stuff like that.
If I need a screen, I'm going to throw it to Nick Chubb.
Right.
I'm not going to throw it to Demetric Felton.
Right. And so, as far as the running backs in the overall preseason,
well, no. I mean, like I think John Kelly. Maybe not in the Washington game. I don't remember him.
I think New York.
I don't remember him. Yeah, he did. I don't remember him flashing much in the Washington game, and I haven't watched that one over again.
Right.
But in the Philly game, I mean, if we can move on to the Philly game now.
Let's go ahead.
If in the Philly game, he looked damn good. Well, all the backs actually looked good in the Philly game. Even Felton looked good in the first game and the third game, the Hall of Fame game and the Philly game. I think he looked good for what he is. I mean, he's not Nick Chubb. No, nobody is. But John Kelly catches screen passes, gets positive yardage. I mean, and he's breaking tackles. Felton does not do that. So the fact that they actually cut him or waived him, whatever, doesn't bother me because I really don't think anybody's going to pick him up. Right. So if you still want him, put him on a practice squad.
Yeah, and I think that is a possibility as well. I don't know because the Browns did like Felton, and there is something that the Browns liked that he remained on the team in that way. But
it was a draft pick.
That could be it.
That is it. I mean,
that could be it.
They love those
6th round draft.
They love those draft. It doesn't matter.
Right.
They love those draft picks.
That's fair. But
when did they draft Schwartz?
3rd round.
And that dude couldn't catch a cold.
Right. But he had tangibles that were
which
special.
Is what?
Speed.
Speed
right.
Doesn't do me a damn bit of good if you can't catch the ball, bro.
Right.
I mean,
I think they were trying to use him. How they should have used him is more of a Josh Cribbs role. They couldn't catch punts, but I'm saying like doing reverses, stuff like that.
They tried that,
or even having him do wildcat formations.
But he's a sprinter. He's not a runner. He's a sprinter.
You're right.
You can't put a guy like Tyreek Hill did all that stuff. And Tyreek Hill was a sprinter. But Tyreek Hill had side lateral speed,
right?
Not just vertical. He was lateral too,
right?
And he had twitch. He was like Barry Sanders, half size,
right?
And Schwartz is not that.
Yeah, and I think that's what they were going for with him.
Yeah, but I'm not in practice, and I don't watch practices ever at all. But I've not seen anything from him in the games that I've watched him that leads me to believe that he ever had or could be shifty. And Tyreek Hill's speed is one thing, but the fact that you can't even put your hands on him is another thing. That dude will catch the ball 2 inches from you, and you can't even touch him.
Right.
There's only one Tyreek Hill.
And there's rarely ever a time where you're going to be 2 inches
from
Tyreek Hill.
And you're not just going to find that. The closest thing we've had to Tyreek Hill since or ever is Elijah Moore.
Yes.
But he's not as fast, but he's twitchy.
He's pretty fast, though. I mean, Tyreek Hill has speed that is hard to compare to in the league.
Right.
All right, so let's move on to the Eagles game then. The Eagles game, we didn't get any of the starters, except for Zadarius. I think he played every game, right?
I think he only played one series, but yeah.
Which I like. I think that I don't know this, so this isn't scores, but I liked that Zadarius was like, "Hey, this is my new team. I'm going to go show the fan base what I'm about. I'm going to be on the field."
Right.
I loved that mentality.
Yep, the man crush definitely got deeper there.
Yeah. Zadarius is awesome, and seeing the training camp videos with him.
And I didn't realize how big that dude was.
Yeah.
We
got Twin Towers.
He is freaking huge.
The team, and that's one thing that.
And you know one thing we haven't even talked about, DeJuan Jones.
No, yeah. Well, we can talk about the Eagles game. We can talk about the Eagles week because there was joint practices as well. So let's talk about that as a whole and make it a little bit more broad.
Okay. The greatest thing about DeJuan Jones is he wanted to pick a fight with everybody.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, no, he is defensive. I mean, when you had Demetri Felton get blindsided, who was the first one? A rookie, DeJuan Jones. That is incredible. Yep. And that sets the tone, I think, for your entire team.
Yep.
And he instantly gets respect from the vets doing it.
Right.
So, I mean, DeJuan Jones, we haven't even talked about him during this, but he has been a highlight for me.
Yes.
As far as the preseason goes.
Yes. I love that guy.
And I think that he could have a role going forward even in this season.
Well, I actually think he might be the right tackle sooner than later.
Yeah. And I think depending on Jack Conklin's health, he already had some health concerns.
Right.
I think that's definitely something that you could see. But that week was, as far as the media goes, that week kind of had highs and lows. Everyone was really high on them on the first practice, a little bit lower on the second practice. And for me, I had a little bit of a different take on that.
It's practice, man.
It is.
Not the game that we love. It's practice.
Right. So I think that the narrative during that was the Eagles won that second day. Deshaun came out and said, he's like, on those things, you can't believe everything that you see, and it's not necessarily something that you can evaluate. They're trying to work on specific things. So you're putting yourself intentionally in bad positions and trying to overcome those things. And so when they were talking about how we didn't score on our last drive and the Eagles did, well, there might have been certain things that they were trying to work on that made it easier or harder for them to do such things. And so, and that works in both ways. With the Browns win the first day, there could have been elements of that as well. But I think the one thing that made me excited hearing about it was that you had guys who weren't even associated with the Browns saying your team is more physical and you look bigger.
Right.
And in football, I mean, that's something that you just can't buy.
You
That's
notice
huge.
who gets off the bus.
Right.
Yep.
And the guys getting off of our bus are scared. We can go through it. DeJuan Jones, Za'Darius,
Miles Garrett,
Dalvin Tomlinson, Joel Bitonio, Wyatt
Shelby
Teller,
Harris, Posick, that's 6 foot something, huge dude.
And even if you don't want to go to the linemen, you got
Nick Chubb.
Diabate looks like a physical.
Right.
You got
Emerson,
Cedric Tillman,
and Juan Thornhill.
Chubb.
Yeah,
Like,
Juan
that's
Thornhill surprised me.
He looks
good.
Well, we'll get to a little bit more.
Yeah, I know.
Too. But yes, I didn't know. I mean, obviously, I knew he was number one, but going through the All-22 and watching that game, I didn't realize that was him at first. I was like, who is that? That dude looks like a solid athlete. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, that's Juan Thornhill. That was cool too, because you want that as a safety too, and especially in our scheme.
Are we on to Kansas City now?
No, I think we should talk a little bit more about the Eagles, because in that game you had another safety. That was the Diabate safety. Mm-hmm. I think again you saw the defense playing, especially the second team defense, looking real good. You got another touchdown by Denard Robinson. I'll just summarize it a little bit.
Denard Robinson.
Or sorry, not
Come on,
DTR.
bro.
Yeah, I don't know why a Michigan quarterback popped in my head, but you got some highs there, and then there were some things that didn't really impress me. But I mean,
going back to what we talked about earlier about the offense, that Philly game, we were pretty balanced.
We definitely were.
I definitely felt good about the play calling. Which, I mean, every game you're going to have a play where, like, what was he thinking? But for the most part, in pretty much all the preseason games, mind the play calling, which was it was my biggest concern. And I've told you a million times, my biggest concern for the season is Kevin Stefanski. Followed only by Deshaun Watson. I think everything else will be better.
I think I have a little bit more faith in Stefanski, but I'm not as hard on Stefanski's play calling. There was last year times where I absolutely hated it, and there are times where I don't know what he's thinking. But my hope is that the defense is also not doing that. So this year, I think, based off of, even if it wasn't there, because I thought Jacoby was exceptional last year. Yeah. If Kevin Stefanski's play calling was altered because he thought maybe he couldn't run his offense based off of what he perceived as liabilities with Jacoby's talent.
Well, that's funny because he kept chucking the ball.
Yeah. I don't know. If you're talking about balance, then I think last year there were times where it was definitely very balanced, other times where it absolutely wasn't. And situationally, there were times where you didn't have to do the things you did. I did like how much they went forward on fourth and did quarterback sneaks. I was all about that. But there were a lot of
that's because you only had Cade York. You couldn't be kicking the ball. Right. It's not going to go through the uprights.
Right, that's fair. But, yeah, I think this year, as far as play calling goes, what I'm not so much concerned about is the balance. I think the balance will be there because you have complementary pieces. You have Deshaun Watson, who's going to open up the box for you. You have Nick Chubb, who with an open box is going to be nuts, and they're going to notice that and start realizing, hey, we can run the ball whenever we want to. We might as well just do it.
But they won't. That's my biggest concern.
Right. But that's my hope. what I'm more so concerned about is situational play calling and having a scenario, say, where it's 3rd and 2 on the say it's 3rd and 2 on the 32-yard line. The opponents were trying to drive in the score, and instead of running the ball to pick up 2 yards and just keep it going,
we try to be cute.
Try to be cute, and because if that happens, then that's a needless. That would make you go for it on 4th and 2 in some scenarios, and that never had happened.
What I'm hoping is with Schwartz being there, he's going to, at some point, walk over to Stefanski and say, listen, dude, just run the freaking ball. It's 3rd and 2. Just run the ball.
Yeah, and as a defensive play caller, I'd be like, hey, my guys can stay off the field and be fresh. If you want a defense that's going to destroy the other team, run the ball.
Which, dude, I'm not as worried about the play calling as I was.
Right.
But it's still a pretty big concern for me.
Well, luckily we're going to get to see real quick.
Yep, and that's the great thing about it. There's a game in, 8 days?
Yeah.
No,
a little bit longer.
10 days?
Yeah.
Wait, what is today?
It's the 29th. We're recording this on the 29th. You got Labor Day weekend and then the following weekend game. So, all right, Eagles game and Eagles week. There were a lot of great things that came out of that storyline-wise, and the game we ended up losing that game, right? Well, we tied. We tied,
yeah.
18-18.
Which I'm fine with.
But there, you could have won with Cade York.
Exactly.
right, but...
he had 2 chances, didn't he?
Yeah, he had 2 chances. And I think... Anyway, we don't got to get into that. All right, moving on to the Kansas City game. We got a little bit more of the starters there. And watching the All-22, that was an awesome experience.
Well, I have not watched the All-22 on that yet.
Okay.
So I'm just going from watching it basically live.
Right.
I don't... watching that game, Kansas City started very few starters.
Right.
On defense, anyways. I don't know about offense, but I didn't care about the defense in that game. I was more worried about, because Mahomes wasn't playing, so I didn't care.
Right.
I was more worried about our offense, how it would look against Kansas City's 2s.
Right.
And I was not impressed.
Yeah. I think that
it looked to me in that game like Kansas City's 2s wanted it more than our 1s did.
Right. And I think that maybe that's unavoidable because these guys are fighting for roster spots. But I agree completely. And that's not bad. That's not a good thing.
I get it. The first possession.
Right.
The second possession, if I'm the center or the tackle or anybody on that team that's playing,
right,
I'm going to walk into the crowd and be like, listen, we're getting our ass beat by 2s.
Right.
Like, let's go. Let's go out here and kick some butt.
You want to set a tone. And honestly, if I was an offensive player, and this is just me being a competitor, but if I'm an offensive player and I am going against the 2s, I'm licking my chops. I'm not resting.
Right.
I'm not resting. We're
gonna pound these guys into a bloody pulp. Yep.
We're gonna try to score 180 points on these guys, and
which is what our defense did to their offense.
Their number 2 offense, right? Yeah, our defense. I know that Mahomes and Kelsey and their big names weren't in there, but
neither were. Well, ours were. Some of them.
Yeah, we did. I mean, Miles didn't play, but we had Zadarius.
But our defense did what it had to do. What it was supposed to do.
Yeah, and Juan got to.
Let's just shut them down.
Right. And we can talk a little bit about Juan now. That pick obviously was really, really a special moment for him getting to do that.
Right. It would have been better against Patty, though.
Oh, my gosh. Could you imagine?
Oh, he'd still be talking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And in his interview, again, on Browns Daily, he was talking about how he knew he was scoring that day, so he already had his celebration and everything.
Right.
And so, that is an exciting thing for me. Because if our season goes well, as we hope, it's going to go through Kansas City at some point. So having a safety who's reading Patrick all the time, having him there is I'm wondering if that was a plan thing. Like a little bit of foresight, knowing that, hey, if we want to go...
I don't think so. I mean, I think Juan... No, I think Juan wanted to come here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that. I've not heard any of that.
Based off what he said, that's the case.
But, yeah, because I have not heard his interview, but I'm thinking that he wanted to come here because he saw the future that I saw.
Right.
When they started putting this team thing together.
Right.
And who wouldn't want to be part? I mean, Shelby Harris said it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I want to come here to play in this defense, play with these guys,
right?
These monsters, you know?
Yeah, and and with Schwartz, who gives you the opportunity
right.
to play fast,
to be a monster,
right? And so, going back on to what Juan had said, this was a little bit earlier in the season or the off season when he signed. He was talking about how much he had heard about the Browns, and he wanted to go to a place that he could be a leader and help lead a team
to another suit.
Right.
He wants to get another one. Yeah.
And he also kind of this entire time has been talking about how much Cleveland, even not being here yet, reminds him of Kansas City. They're both, not massive markets.
Rabid.
Are just into football.
Yeah.
He was saying, the Chiefs Stadium is incredibly similar to the Dog Pound, and so I definitely think that that's cool in those ties. And he showed out a little bit in that game.
Yep.
He made me notice him.
Yep.
And then obviously the people we've been talking about on defense definitely.
Well, I was kind of worried about the chosen one when I think it was in that game he missed his first 2 tackles, and I'm thinking, oh my God, here we go again.
A safety that can't tackle.
Yeah, another safety that can't tackle. But he redeemed it. After
that,
he started. Dude, he put a hit on that. I think it was number 82 or 84. One of their receivers. I think he broke the guy's ribs,
84
man.
is their tight end.
Well, whoever it was, yeah.
What?
Big white guy, yeah. He was on the sideline wincing. I think he broke his ribs, man. That's what I want to see.
Well, that's good because that's a tight end, so he's not afraid to go against
right.
football.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't afraid of nothing in that game.
So I think the defense showed what it needed to show, and then even when we got into the second teamers, that defense is kind of going back to our roster because there's so many defensive players that showed out.
Yeah. Mo Hurst showed out in that game.
Yes,
and
he did.
He did such a good job, it got him cut.
Right. Then going to the offense. The offense, I felt like, we scored mostly off the defense there in that.
Yeah,
Big six.
Well, we went down the first possession, got down there, Cade missed a field goal. And then I don't know that for sure. We may have punted. I'll have to watch it again, but the offense only scored once.
Right. No, we fumbled, didn't we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. We fumbled the first possession. Scored on the second possession. I think that was the touchdown pass to Njoku. And then Cade missed the extra point.
Right.
So, and got hurt somehow, mysteriously. Got hurt and got a penalty, and then we went for 2.
Well, the running into the kicker thing's how Cade got hurt.
It didn't even look like he hit him. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I didn't get to zoom in and check it, but it didn't really even look like he hit him. But anyways, so we go for 2. We get the 2-point conversion. Then the defense steps up. I mean, I think the defense scored. I think we had to go for 2 on one of their touchdowns.
We did. Kelly put that in, didn't he?
I want to say that was after the.
That was after the fumble.
That was after the fumble.
Right.
But yeah. the offense wasn't impressive. But I think what was the guy's name? Number 20. Wilkins. I think if he doesn't fumble the first time, we were moving the ball.
We're absolutely moving the ball. And the thing, I don't always want to defend Deshaun. Obviously, you can tell I'm a fan of his. But there, watching it back on all 22, it seemed like it was a timing issue that Wilkins got there before. And it was just one of those things. So that was an upsetting thing.
You're not going to see that happen with Chubb in the backfield.
Right. And Wilkins had just gotten there.
Right.
They didn't have their timing down and stuff like that. That was an unfortunate outcome, but it is what it is. And then going on from there, the second team, you had a Kelly touchdown run. That drive was impressive. Mm-hmm. You had an Njoku touchdown catch, which Njoku, from everything we hear all training camp and all summer long, he was always open, always impressing.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a big year. I'd take him on my fantasy team.
I would too. Yeah, I think I am going to. And then, so I think that kind of wraps up for me the Kansas City game. There were parts of it that were huge and so exciting, but you kind of have to temper back what that was because it was against second string guys.
And third team.
Right.
But one thing I will say in that game, DTR did not look as sharp.
He didn't.
I don't know if being named the number 2 had an effect on him. Yeah. Maybe it added a little more pressure. I don't know, but he did not look as good as he had in the previous 3 games.
Yeah, I don't know what that could have been about because he definitely didn't. Maybe it was a scheme that he wasn't prepared for. Maybe it was that Deshaun was taking reps in this, and so he didn't get as many reps.
He didn't get reps before the other preseason games. In the Philly game, he didn't take any reps in practice.
You're right.
I mean, they may have ran some scout team crap here and there,
right?
But he didn't take starter reps, and he looked great in that game. I actually after that game, I'm thinking, well, how many first round picks could we get for Deshaun, and we'll start this kid?
Right. No, he looked very similar to Deshaun.
Yeah.
Which Deshaun and him trained together when he was in college. So
and he has his ball comes out. Just watching him and Kellen Mond, they look similar. It's hard for me to tell the two apart. If they didn't have numbers on their back, I'd have a hard time.
1-7, 117.
Right. So. I had a hard time telling them apart until they start moving.
Yeah, I think DTR is a little bit bigger, but I think what you're saying is his ball looks different.
Oh, yes. Much different.
Yes.
His ball is way more Deshaun Watson than Kellen Mond.
Right.
And that impressed me. I'd never even heard of that kid before, man.
Yeah.
To me, that was a good draft pick.
Yeah.
I'll give Stefanski credit for that one. Or not Stefanski, Barry credit for that one.
Well, I think that was when he became available and declared for the draft in his last college season. I kind of thought that would be the case based off the fact that he trained with Deshaun and he's a little bit older of a rookie because he had the COVID.
He had 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Right. So, and he didn't have to do school his last year.
Right.
So he was more ready to go.
Right. And he even said in an interview that I heard, I think on CBD, that that 5th year was like playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because he could focus completely on football.
Right. And I think he probably, at least if I'm thinking of it as the Browns talent evaluation, you could probably see that.
And also, too, if you think about it, I mean, this is off the Browns topic, but Brock Purdy, drafted last in the draft, played a complete, I hate that term.
I do too.
But he played a complete career in college.
Right.
And he came in and, I mean, he don't look like Joe Montana.
Right.
But for that offense, he looks pretty dang good.
Well, there's nothing better than experience.
Right.
And you see that in football, you see it in basketball. A lot of those guys, those first year guys, might have star power, but they need time to develop.
Right.
But those guys that come out later are a little bit more of a finished product. So, and two, you're taking people who are 21 or taking someone who's 23, 24 as well. So, yeah, I think that kind of wraps up the preseason and how that went. I think we kind of hit on some of the holes there that we might have seen. For me personally, I think that the running back room, I know we talked about this a little bit, but I think the running back room for me is probably the only one that I don't feel we have incredible depth at. But
there's not a room other than the running back room that isn't deep. But
unless if you think that Deshaun Watson's not going to be what we hope he is, then you could say, oh crap, quarterback.
Well, you can't say that right now because you're paying him $230 million.
Right.
There's not a dang thing you can do about that quarterback room right now. And whether or not DTR is the next great thing doesn't matter unless Deshaun goes down.
Right.
Which, if he goes down, we're probably... Well, I honestly think that with our offense, if Jacoby Brissett started this season the way he started last season, with the defense that we currently have, we go last year, we go 13-4. If he plays the whole year. If they don't have Deshaun come in and play the last 6 games, I say we would probably go 13-4. Because he was a top 10 quarterback while he was playing.
Yep.
And everybody's...
And he was getting better throughout the season.
Everybody for Baker's term as quarterback said all we need is average quarterback play. That's all we need. Well,
you got above average.
I would say top 10 is way above average. And our defense let us down. Cade York let us down. And Stefanski let us down.
Yeah.
And to me, there are no excuses this year. None. I don't want to hear anything. If Deshaun Watson gets hurt game 1, first play, there is no excuse to me. We are in the playoffs or everybody gets fired. That's the way I look at it. Hot take or not, I don't know.
I don't think that's necessarily a hot take because San Francisco, everyone thinks that they have one of the most complete rosters in the league, and they went down to their 4th-string quarterback and were in the NFC Championship.
Right.
So if you believe that our roster is as good as it is, then there's no reason that your 2nd stringer can't take it.
Well, I don't think you have to have Patrick Mahomes to win a Super Bowl.
You don't.
Well, according to everybody that I listen to, you do.
Well, that's because people want to win a certain way.
Well, that's ridiculous.
It is.
I just want W's. I don't care if it's 34-2 or 10-2 or 10-9. I don't care. I want W's in our column.
Yeah, I don't care if it's 10-7.
I don't care if it's 3-2.
Right.
But if we since we got rid of Cade York, we could win a game 3-2.
Right.
But with Cade York, you can't win that game because he's going to lose it for you.
All right.
And I don't know what your thing is, why we have not talked about Cade York, but that was the biggest hole in the roster, and it's gone now.
Yeah. Well, that's partially why I didn't talk about it, and we can do a little bit here on it. So obviously, Cade York. So let's talk about what we saw. I saw a guy who everybody said had incredible talent, but if you never heard anything about him looking good in practice and just saw what was on the football field on TV, you'd be like, why is this guy even on the team?
See,
because his ball doesn't look. His ball looks like a high schooler's.
No, it doesn't. When you played Pee Wee football, your field goal kicker kicked better than he did.
I know his ball.
At what? What was Pee Wee? 10 years old?
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, you guys weren't kicking 50-yarders, but
right.
It didn't look like that. I mean, he looked like Tim Wakefield pitching a knuckleball out there.
Yeah, I think that fundamentally there was something wrong because we saw it.
See, I don't think it had anything to do with fundamentals because everybody. Yeah, it might have been fundamental that kick,
right?
Because he was in his head.
Yeah,
he was Chuck Knobblocking out there, and from everything I've heard about the kid, he's a great kid.
He is. Yeah,
he's a nice dude. He's competitive. Yep. He's driven. I get all that. But dude, get out of your head, man. And if he can I would actually like to see them re-sign him to the practice squad because I don't think anybody's going to pick him up.
And I heard that was a possibility.
The only way I could see anybody picking him up would be like if you played in a dome or like in L.A.
Well,
or Vegas.
As it happens.
Is Vegas a dome?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a retractable dome.
Okay.
But as it happens, the Saints traded Will Lutz earlier today to Denver. So they have a vacancy, I'm pretty sure.
Well, maybe
I might be wrong.
Maybe they'll pick him up.
But that would be a nice landing spot for him.
And he went to LSU, so that would be nice for him.
Right. I think that's the thing for Cade. And I didn't bring him up as much because first off, you don't want to beat someone while they're down.
I do. But I don't care.
I know. But then I also, and like the guy's person, seeing his interviews and stuff, he knew that it seemed like he knew what the issues were and was an incredibly respectable guy and took all the beating.
I know he did.
And that's valiant to me. But there was definitely for me something wrong in how his kicks look. Just looking at it as an observer, not even trying to diagnose it, you could see that ball didn't move like you see hundreds of kicks from other kickers move. Like it was never end over end. There was some sort of weird spin to it. or something that, it'd even start straight and then break out like it was a curveball.
Right.
So
I think he was trying to kick the leather off the ball.
It looked like a two-seam fastball.
Right. I think he was trying to. I don't know. I know this, and I don't know this, but I'm guessing this. When you have the leg that kid has, because everything I've heard, the kid can kick 70-yard field goals.
Right.
So if I'm him, and if I was a baseball pitcher and I could throw 110 mile an hour, and I'm struggling, I'm gonna rear back and I'm gonna crank it out.
Right. Because
that's my thing.
Right.
I think that's what he was doing. I think he was trying to knock the cover off the ball. It's not only that, I think it was in his head.
It's like a golfer.
Right.
You're just, if you can't hit it straight, you're going to try to hit it as far as you can.
Right.
Right. Okay. I get that. And I think, honestly, too, he was thinking maybe because it has that two-seam action, let me just try to get through the net before that two-seam action can take place.
Yeah, but God, come on, man.
No,
Put a little touch on it.
I agree. But Dustin Hopkins, I think, is exactly what we need.
Yeah, if we need a kicker to kick 50-yard field goals, we got bigger problems.
Yep.
I mean, like you were saying earlier when we were talking, if it'd be nice to have a guy like Justin Tucker who can kick you a 60-yarder with 3 seconds left, and you get the ball back with 13 seconds.
Right.
You move the ball 15 yards and you set up for a field goal. That'd be nice.
Right.
But if we're counting on that, I mean, I'm not even going to go into Lamar Jackson right now because this is our first podcast. I don't want to get everybody mad at me. But anyways, if we're counting on a kicker to win us games all the time, we've got bigger problems.
100%.
And from everything I've seen, he's pretty much automatic 40 and in.
Yes.
So that's all I care about. Yep. If I can get to the 20 in the drive stalls, make the damn field goal.
Yep.
With Kate, and granted, I'm kicking him while he's down, but I like the kid. I like the way he handled himself, and I just wish it worked for him.
Yeah. But
it didn't.
And honestly, maybe a change of venue will be what helps.
I don't know.
But
it can't hurt. But I actually hope they get him on the practice because the kid can kick the ball. From what they say on the radio and on TV, he's hitting all his kicks in practice. But we don't play the game in practice. That's why another thing, like you said earlier, you're like, everything that's going on in practice. I don't get to see any of that.
Right.
So for me, when I'm basing my critiques on the Cleveland Browns, all I get to see is the games.
Right.
If they want me to have an objective, open-minded opinion on it, I watch the games as objectively. I can remember watching the game with you and Ethan last year when Deshaun opened up the game. And you guys, I swear to God, had smoke coming out your ears. You were so mad at how he was playing. And I'm laughing because I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to happen because I put myself in his position. All the crap he went through and all of that. That's the only reason I'm cutting him any slack. And I'm giving him a chance.
Right.
Because what I saw last year was Baker Mayfield with 2 broken legs, a torn shoulder. Baker looked better. And I'm thinking, we traded for this.
Right.
And I'm not as high on Deshaun Watson as everybody else is. You know that.
Yep.
But he's damn good.
He is.
He's not Patrick Mahomes good, but he's better than Baker. He's better than Jacoby. He's probably a top 10 quarterback, and he was at one point.
Well, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but that's starting to get some traction too amongst people, is that he is a top 10. For me, I think that
he's got to prove it.
I completely agree.
And he even said that.
Yeah,
I haven't played good ball in 2 years. He said it out of his own mouth.
Yeah,
and I respect him for that. So
100%.
The second that I heard that, I decided I'm going to give this kid a chance.
Yeah.
And for me, he's got 6 games. He had 6 games last year that looked pretty damn bad. So I'm going to give him 6. I don't expect him to come out and look like Houston Deshaun Watson. I don't expect that at all because he doesn't have to be that. Now, if Stefanski forces it, I'll see it, and I'm going to blame Stefanski.
Right.
If They come out chucking the ball 40 times, and he's hitting people in the feet like he did in that last preseason game. We watched it. He had 5. He was 5 of 10 for what? How many yards?
90, I believe, or something.
Okay, like he's 5 of 10 for 90 yards.
And a touchdown.
I think I would say now he may have actually, if I could sit down with him over a glass of shine and actually have a honest conversation with him, he'd probably tell me that more than maybe 2 of those passes, other than 2 of those 3 of those passes were throwaways. Right. The guy was covered, so he threw it low. But the one that hit the guy wide open in the feet, he had nervous feet again. But he had a guy in his face, right. So I get it. But you're Deshaun Watson. Like, you make $230 million. You got to complete that pass. I don't care. There's no excuses anymore for me. But I'm going to give the guy a chance. Because I'm just that kind of good dude. I'll give him a chance. But I'm not settling for excuses. Not anymore. Those days are over.
Well, I think that's fair. And I think that's originally, because I'm a fan of his and I'm an optimist, I thought he might come out and ball. But hindsight, being 2020 and getting to reflect on a little bit, if I took 2 years off of my job and went right back into it, there would be some steps I'd have to take.
And that's what I was saying last year.
And I should have recognized that at the time. And I think in hindsight, we can all recognize that. But this year, he's got a full training camp. He's got everything.
His mind's right.
Yeah, his mind's right. And that's exciting. And he has every opportunity. He's been put in a perfect position to succeed. And so now a lot of the excuses are gone. You have to succeed. And so...
But that's also where your play caller comes in.
Yep.
He can be he's in position right now to succeed.
Right.
That doesn't mean when the first kick goes off that he's going to be put in positions to succeed then.
That's fair.
And that was my biggest worry coming into this season.
The paper tells him he's in a position to succeed, but as far as it playing out, we'll see how that goes. You're listening to the Chillen with the Dawgs podcast with Justice Garber and Jason Garber. You can catch our shows live Friday. You can catch it on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and more podcasting apps coming to you soon. All right, let's get back in the action. All right. So our first game's against the Bengals here in a couple of weeks.
Bengals at Browns, 1 p.m.
Right. So that should be a primetime game, but oh well. I know it's the first week, so. And we're Browns fans, so that's a natural response. But
well, no, that's actually should be. I don't know the whole schedule, but that's a good game.
I think there are some big games coming up that week, though. A lot of rivalry games. Yeah. All right. So Browns and Bengals. Some of the bigger storylines going into that game is Joe Burrow's health.
Right. Which I don't think he's even practiced yet. At least not.
I think that they're saying he's working his way back. And right. I think that he's going to be cleared for that game, which I want, and we both have said we want to see the Browns against Joe Burrow.
I want them to beat his ass again.
Right. And so going forward, that's a big storyline. Obviously, you're aware, we've kind of talked about some of the Browns storylines going into that. I think that for that game, because here we're going to be doing some of our predictions. I think going into that game and how I've seen our team, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game because the defenses always start a little bit faster than the offense. So I think I could see that game going. I think the Browns will win. And I think it'll be because it's at Browns, right?
It's at Cleveland, yeah.
Right. Okay, so it's at Cleveland. I see that going 24-20 Browns.
Who? Cincy?
Cincy, and the Browns make a stop. That's how I can see it.
And you're going, what's your... I'm writing this down because I'm keeping track.
Okay. I would go 24 to nothing.
24 to nothing?
Or, sorry, 24 to 20.
24,
that would be sick, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 24-20 Browns, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say I think you're crazy.
Okay.
Because if Joe Burrow hasn't practiced say he started practice today.
You're right.
He starts practice today. Okay, they revamped his offensive line a little bit. I have not watched 1 second of Bengals preseason. So I have no clue what their team looks like. But I know that they lost 2 starting safeties last year.
Right.
Am I right on that? And a corner?
Right.
And if Deshaun Watson is half of what he was in Houston,
right,
I see us scoring at least 30 points.
I think that's fair.
And then I see our defense. They're already scared of Myles Garrett. They've been scared of Myles Garrett since Joe Burrow started playing in Cincinnati. Right. And now you've got Zadarius on the other side, the other twin tower, Dalvin in the middle, and I don't know who's starting at the other tackle, but it doesn't matter. I see the score 30 to, I'll give them 12.
Well, that's fair. I think we beat them last year, like 30-something. It was a very similar
Not to mention Burrow started slow last year, too.
Yeah.
Because he had an injury.
Deshaun starts slow, too.
He does start slow. But, like I said earlier, no excuses. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I require 30 points.
I think in most cases, maybe not in the first game of the year, but in most cases, if we want to go for
Baker did it.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
that's true.
Jacoby did it.
That is true.
I don't want to hear it.
I think that if you want to beat the Bengals, scoring 30 points is something you got to get.
Well, I would have said that last year.
Yeah.
This year, maybe I'm too high on our defense, but like you said earlier, defenses start faster than offenses, and they're going to be behind because Burrow's, coming off of an injury.
Right. And you got a new lineman there. I'm trying to remember his name, but the tackle for the Chiefs last year.
Right. Is it? What the heck's it?
I wanted to say Trey Flowers, but I don't think so.
It doesn't matter who it is. It's Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
He's going to see a whole lot of somebody he don't want to see.
The least amount of double teams.
That's my biggest thing I want to see this year is I remember last year watching that guy be triple teamed and nobody could make a play.
Right.
I don't see how that's going to happen this year.
It's impossible.
Even if you double team him an eighth of the snaps that they're playing. Who else? I mean, you got 4 other guys on the line.
Right.
They're all singled up.
And if you're blitzing, which Schwartz likes to do, then you can't do it.
And you got, I see that game being 30 to 12.
I definitely see that. And the way that you're proposing that, it kind of makes me rethink mine. But I think even injured, Joe Burrow, with the weapons that they have, can still put up some numbers.
He can, but you're taking the dude, I'm telling you, the fear of Garrett is real.
Yeah.
And I would like to have him sitting here at the table with me with a glass of moonshine in front of him, about half crocked, and listen to what he has to say about that first game.
Yeah.
I would imagine his underwear brown. Just saying.
Yeah, all right. Well, so I think that game, we both had the Browns winning.
Yep. Okay, now we're on to Pittsburgh.
At Pittsburgh, right?
At Pittsburgh.
Okay, so I think I could see us winning that game, but I would probably chalk this up as a loss. At Pittsburgh, Browns don't always, they have a
playoff win in Pittsburgh.
They have a playoff win in Pittsburgh, but I think that historically they haven't played well. Everything you hear from every Steelers fan is that team looks way better on offense than I think most people predicted. So if there's some teeth to that, then I think that I could see that game going. I think that one might be. I think a lot of our wins this year are going to be not incredibly high scoring games, and because of how good our defense is, and I think our offense is probably going to average somewhere around 25 to 30 plus points a game, and 30 in that ballpark. And so I think that
I don't know if anybody can hear this on this podcast, but we're sitting in a house full of dogs right now, and they're going crazy. We're talking Browns victories, and our dogs are losing their mind. Just saying.
Right. So, okay. To sum it up, I think that game, I think the Browns, I'll just say they lose that game.
Oh, my God.
I would hate that, but I say the Browns lose that game, and they lose a nail biter, and they lose 28. No, I don't think Pittsburgh's going to score that much. I'd say 23-20. We lose by a field goal.
You're taking Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Jesus. I can't believe you came from my loins.
I'm trying to be.
Okay.
I'm not.
Well, I got a feeling by the end of this, anybody listening to this is going to love me.
Yeah.
And they're not going to like you as much.
That's
because
fair.
I think it's going to be Browns 42, Pittsburgh 15.
Okay. Well, that's also Browns fans who will love you. I think a lot of the national people might like me.
Well, I go right back to if the defense is what I think it is, which it's what I thought it would be from the start of the preseason. If it is what I think it is, and we have if Ward doesn't have a concussion, that's going to be a big deal in the Cincy game.
Yes.
But if Ward is good, he's going to lock down somebody. I don't even know who don't care who their receivers are. Their offensive line played against twos most of the season. That offense looked really good against twos.
Right.
That offense has not seen a team like what we're going to be bringing in. Like you said earlier, we're bringing off the bus monsters.
Yep.
We're not bringing off little wussy girls anymore. Half-size speed guys. We're not doing that anymore. We're bringing big, fast, strong badasses. As Schwartz said, they're going to lead the league in badassery.
Right.
I think that's going to be on full display here in this game. And I think I think Watson's going to ball out in this game. I think Chubb's going to run for 150 yards.
See that.
And I think it's going to be an offensive powder keg. I think this is the game that they're going to showcase everything.
Okay.
Because they want to put Pittsburgh on notice. We're not little brother anymore. We're coming for your wife right now.
Well, that's how I want to see it. I think that I can easily see that happening. But if I'm going to go off of history and have a little bit of non-bias there, I'm going to say that if I see a loss in the first quarter of the season, it's to them at their place. Because I think coming here in the next ones, it'll change a bit. So next up, we got Tennessee.
Tennessee at Cleveland.
At Cleveland. Okay. So I personally, I love Mike Vrabel, and
I do too.
I love Mike Vrabel, but I don't have any thought that we're going to lose that game.
So
now they're good. They have elements of their team that's good, and I like how they play. But as far as talent, I think that there's such a disparity there on the side of Tennessee.
The thing about do they still have Derrick Henry?
They do.
If we can't stop the run, we're done. Because if you take Derrick Henry out of the game, they can't beat you.
100%.
So, hold on. Give me your score first.
Okay.
I'm getting ahead of myself
well,
here.
We can do scores after.
Well, no, let's do scores right now as we go.
So I think that's a game where you have the Browns' offense explode.
Okay.
That's where I think the Browns' offense explodes.
So it's an offensive explosion. What do you think? 24 points?
No, I think that you're going to be, let's say, 38 to 10. I think is how that game goes. Because for me personally, I think the Browns have not always, there's been some runs, but I think they've mostly handled Derrick Henry pretty well. And that line is
There was one game, 2 years ago, the opener. I think it was the season opener. We got smoked by Tennessee, but Derrick Henry had like 7,000 yards rushing against our defense.
Right. I think we're going to handle that. And especially with the new roster, I think we're going to handle him.
Well, I kind of concur with you, so that would be a score I would go with. I might just say 38-12.
Okay. There you go. All right, so moving on from there, we got Baltimore. And where's that at?
Hang on. Baltimore game is at Cleveland.
At Cleveland. So that one there again, I think that's where you get the AFC North put on notice game.
Well, if we've already lost to Pittsburgh, Well, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, there you go. I know what you're saying. So there is when people are like, okay, the Browns are here. Because I don't think you get that yet with just the Tennessee game. And I guess you can because they beat the Bengals as well. But I think there you have another offensive explosion that could regress this year. That their cornerback play might dip a little bit. I don't like Marlon Humphrey, but his game is pretty good.
Yeah, he's a bully.
Yeah,
he plays corner like I would.
Yeah, 100%. And
because I'm short, fat, and slow, so I got to beat you up.
Smith is one of my favorite players in the league. But they lost Calais Campbell. And honestly, other than that, I don't know. They always play good defense, but as far as what I've seen in the past in the Ravens, I think that this could be a different year for them.
Well, I watched Baker Mayfield light that team up.
Right.
And it was a better defense back then.
Right. So I see that game going, let's say, 32-23 in the Browns' favor.
Okay. Now, this is the second game that I think we put the AFC or the whole freaking country on notice. Because I think Lamar's overrated. That's a hot take, I guess. I don't know. I think Lamar's overrated. I don't think he can throw the ball. He's got new weapons. We're going to find out. That's the great thing about it. I'm going to be wrong or I'm going to be right.
Right.
And
I think we have the same opinion.
Most of the time I'm right.
Other than Zay Flowers.
Well, yeah. But we have the linebacker to deal with Lamar's running. Yep. We have a defense that, as far as I've seen, I mean, we haven't really played a guy like him. But I don't see how
our defense is made to stop Lamar Jackson.
Right. Well, the scheme isn't so much because we're not sending the house, and I'm not worried about Lamar beating me in the air.
Yeah. So
I would actually probably bring more blitzes, more run stop blitzes, and try to take his running out. If you look back, there's very few games Lamar has beaten a team throwing the ball. It's always his legs.
Well, he did it on one play to us.
One play.
Right.
Well, every squirrel finds a nut once in a while. I mean, right. I've had blind hunting dogs that actually can catch a squirrel on the ground. I mean,
yeah, but that one play ended up with us losing.
So. Well, that's old Cleveland.
That is. You're right.
And if I think your score is probably right because I don't think you can shut Lamar down running the ball.
Completely. Right.
But I'm gonna say they got Justin Tucker. That guy could kick 17 field goals to beat you.
Right.
So I'm thinking it's probably going to be, and their defense is adequate. So I would say probably like 30 to 20 would be my score on that game. Cleveland.
I can see that.
But I think that's the game that the country starts going, oh crap, because the way I have it right now, we're 4-0.
Right.
You're 3-1. And if we're 4-0 with that schedule, I mean, most people are talking about the AFC North. All of us could get into the playoffs.
Right.
So if the Browns sweep that schedule, I mean, there's going to be Super Bowl talk.
People that are in the AFC North market think that, but I think nationally that might not be the case.
No, I listen to a lot of national guys. Well, at least in the mornings, and everyone that they've had on ESPN 850 in the mornings is talking about, well, the AFC North could put all four teams in the playoffs.
I was more so thinking of like the Colin Cowherd.
Well, Colin Cowherd don't like Cleveland, so I don't like him.
All right. So
week 5's a bye.
Yep, we got the bye week, which sucks that it's that early, but if you're going into it 4-0, that's not.
It just depends. It depends on what happens in the first couple games. I mean, if you have a couple guys go down with concussions or sprained ankles or something, that bye week's nice.
But then you got a long season coming afterwards.
But I like that.
Yeah, you can get on a roll and just go.
Yeah, I like that.
So moving on, we got San Francisco after the bye, right? Mm-hmm. And where's that at?
That's at home.
All right,
at Cleveland.
This here, I think, is probably one of the biggest tests of the schedule. For me, I think that we're going to hang with them, but I think we end up losing. I think that this is probably one of the times you see in the year that the defense or the offense could struggle. I don't think the run's going to struggle, but the pass can with their pass rush. So I see that being close. And I see it being relatively low scoring because that's two good defenses and a quarterback our quarterback could have a problem with their rush. And their quarterback is definitely, I think, going to have a problem with it. So I see that being 17 to... No, I don't, because I think we'll score more than 13 points. I see that being 23 to 17. I can see 2 touchdowns
San Fran?
and a field goal. San Francisco, yep. Right, so
23 to 17, San Fran.
Yep.
This is the only game that scares me. But this is the game I think that the team, like Za'Darius, Juan, the chosen one, Denzel, Miles, Watson.
Right.
I think Chubb. I think all of those guys say, listen, if we're going to be the team we want to be, regardless of what, they could be 0-4 here.
Right.
This game, I think we are going to lose. But I'm not going to say that. I think we could lose this game, but I think we have to win it. And if we don't win it, I put this game is a must win for us. I don't care what our record is at this point. I think we must win this game.
Yeah, this could be because you're also getting a week of prep in between the bye week. So you could go into this, and with this being that run we were talking about, this could be the catalyst in that run.
Right.
So,
well, I'm on a run right now because I'm already 4-0.
Right. Now,
but I'm going to say the score is going to be 23-17 Cleveland.
Okay. That would be awesome.
Because it has to be.
Right.
And I think we could lose a game to any of our division rivals, and it's okay.
Right.
But I think if we lose this game, it's going to be detrimental to our team after a bye.
Right. All right. So this is where I don't remember the schedule as much. Who we got next?
Okay, we've got
the Colts. Okay. So we can go by this one pretty quick. I think that that's going to be a bloodbath. I honestly think that we might be able to pull the starters in that game, because I think the defense could have 3 pick sixes in that game. I like Anthony.
The defense could have 15 sacks too.
Right.
Myles Garrett might set the season sack record in this game.
Yeah, he could. I like Anthony Richardson a lot. That's his name, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I like him a lot, but he's a rookie quarterback going against a freak show of defense. So I don't think he's going to have a happy day that day.
You think he'll look like Justin Fields last year? Well, we had like 8 sacks in that game.
Yeah. No, I do. I feel like he's going to have a rough day, and so I would predict a defensive touchdown there, and then I would predict that we end up winning that game. Let's say 38-7.
38-7. Now I like that. That is an offensive explosion. And DTR comes in and scores 2 touchdowns. That'd be great.
There you go.
Yeah,
then the Colts want to trade for DTR.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add to that. So I'm gonna say 1,000 to 2, or no 3. They get a field goal.
Yeah, because they're probably not going to get a safety on us.
No.
Watch them get a safety on us.
Well, it's either we blow them out or they beat us in a nail
that's
biter.
A trap game.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're just coming off the San Fran game.
Right, the high
so
of that.
I could actually see that being a loss.
Yeah.
And everybody's complaining and screaming about it because we lost to the freaking Colts. But don't we do that every year anyway?
We always lose a trap game.
Right.
Yep.
But I'm not going there. So, dude, I'm sitting at 6-0 right now. Next game, Browns at Seattle.
All right. So I think when we've talked about this before, I'm much higher on Seattle than you.
Well, I honestly don't have a clue about Seattle. I never get to watch them on TV.
Right.
I mean, we got
22.
We got the NFL Prime now, so
right.
I could do that. But
right.
but before, I mean, what I get to watch. I think I watched a game of them in the playoffs, and maybe one game when they played a Thursday night or something last year. So I really don't know a thing about Seattle.
Well, I can kind of fill that in with my answer. I think that this game is going to be an incredibly physical one. That defense now that they drafted another corner in the first round, that secondary is starting to really, really shape up with Tariq Woolen. And that I'm blanking on his name right now, but the kid from Illinois, he's a beast. And then they drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba as well. So to go with that, they have a three-headed monster receiver. Yeah. Kenneth Walker, their rookie last year, was nuts. I think their limiting factor in the season is, can Geno repeat his successes of last year? And I don't know. I think that he can, because he was consistent last year. It wasn't like he was having...
He was Jacoby Brissett last year.
He was.
Only a little better, maybe.
Yeah, they had very similar seasons. And so if he is what he was last year, I could see this being a very, very close game. If he's not, then I think the Browns win. But if I had to predict that, I would say, for me, I think the Browns win that game. And they win it relatively high scoring. They win 28-23.
28-23?
Yep.
Cleveland?
Cleveland.
Okay, I have this as a loss. We will have played, if my predictions are correct, we're 6-0 going into that game.
Right.
To me, that's a trap game. We're flying clear across the country.
True.
And the game is at 4:05, which is good. But you're flying clear across the country. We were in a slobber knocker with San Francisco. We just beat the doors off of Indy, in my opinion, 1,000-3. Right. We just beat the doors off of them. Feeling ourselves, and typical Cleveland. We are, we're going to go undefeated this year. We can roll the balls out and beat this turd team. And I could see us losing a close game, like maybe 23-17 losing.
Right. I could see that.
But it wouldn't surprise me if they won. But realistically, I gotta put a loss somewhere.
Right.
And this is the spot I'm doing.
I think
because I think San Francisco's got to be a win.
Right.
And we're gonna lose either to the Colts, which if we do, I might jump off the 480, drive clear to Cleveland, and jump off the 480 bridge myself. But it's like I don't see us going like 8-0, 10-0. We're gonna have a loss somewhere.
Right.
And I think this is if there's a such thing as a good loss, this would be it. We flew clear across the country. You've got built-in excuses.
Yep.
I mean, I just see it as a loss.
I think that's totally fair.
Or it could be. I mean, we're going to lose either to the Niners or the Seahawks. And I think we have to beat the Niners at home. You just have to.
So we reversed it. I think that we're going to lose to San Fran. Right. Okay. I got you. So moving on from there, we're in
Arizona.
Week 8, right? Our 7th game, Week 8?
9. Week 9.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we're at Arizona at Cleveland. 1 o'clock kick.
This is, again, one of those similar to the Colts. I think that we dismantle them.
Okay.
Although we get a reunion with Josh Dawgs, probably, if he wins that job.
I think they already announced him starter. Because
they
cut Colt.
Really?
Yeah, they cut Colt McCoy. And I think they traded for him to be the starter.
Okay. Well, there you go. So you got Dobbs there. And I love Dobbs. I love Dobbs.
Yeah, I like him too. Good kid.
Right, but I don't see that going very well for him.
I think go ahead.
D-Hop's gone. Right. He's in Tennessee now.
Right.
So I think that's honestly their defense, especially.
I forgot about that. D-Hop going to Tennessee.
Right.
I can't wait to see Emerson on him.
That is one of my favorite matchups.
Dude, I want to see that bad.
So I think there's going to be wins and losses there for both.
Right.
I think it's going to be a sick matchup.
Right.
But as far as Arizona goes, I'll make this quick because I think they're going to get dismantled. I'll go 1,000-2 in that.
1,000. They're going to get a safety on us?
All right. Right.
1,000-3?
That's at 1,000-3.
All right. I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to go that crazy. I'm going to say it's 6,000-7.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
I'll give them a touchdown in garbage time.
Yeah.
But I think what's going to happen is the week before we play Arizona, I think Dawgs is going to get turf toe so bad he can't play. Because he was on our roster and he saw all those monsters, went against them every day, and he's like, I ain't doing this for real. Because they can actually hit me. Right. I ain't doing it.
Well, I respect that. I don't know if I could either.
Okay, next game is Browns at Ravens.
So we're past the halfway point now.
Yeah. Right? Well, this Browns at Ravens is week 10.
So what's our overall records at so far?
Okay, so you are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2. I'm at 7 and 1.
Okay. So you're at 7 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is, just to let you know, I think that we're going to go 4 and 2 in the division. I think we're going to lose to the Ravens here.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know why at this point, but the Ravens being in Baltimore, I think that we end up, I'll make it quick too, I think that we're going to lose, maybe our defense has an off game and we lose 30 to 20.
That's your score?
Yep.
30 to 20. Baltimore. Okay. Well, I think it's week 10.
Right.
So Lamar's hurt now. Because when we played him in the first game, and he's now hurt. So now you've got the backup quarterback. Because you got to remember, Lamar hasn't even played in a preseason game yet.
Right.
I watched it. I tried to. Well, I didn't watch every one, but I started every one of their games to see Lamar and see how the receivers and everybody meshed, so I get a read on it. And he never played.
Right.
I don't think any of their starting. Zay Flower, is that his name? Zay Flower. I think he played.
He looks good
in a couple games and looked good, but
on my fantasy team.
Good for you. I don't do that fantasy stuff no more. So I think we're gonna sweep Baltimore.
Okay.
So
I'm
I think we're gonna sweep Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I think I'll get to. I think we're gonna go 5 and 1. Is there 6 games? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna go 5 and 1 in the division.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put it at because I don't think their defense is gonna stop our offense. So I'm gonna go 33 to. I'll say Lamar does play. So it's 33 to 17.
Okay.
Cleveland.
And I definitely do see that. I guess my narrative is I think we're going to go 4 and 2 in the division, wherever. And so I'm giving it to Pittsburgh.
I get that. At their homes. I get it. Okay, so the next game is Steelers at Browns.
All right. So this is, I guess I kind of ruined the suspense, but I think this is a win. Getting to play Pittsburgh at home, I think there's going to be a lot of juice for this game, especially if the Steelers are having a good season. Because at this point, I think on both of ours, the Browns at this point are having a good season.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, and so say the Steelers are, that doesn't matter. I think that we win this game. I think our defense is balling at this point. I think Deshaun is balling at this point. I think Chubb.
He better be. It's week 11.
Right. I think Chubb is going to get 120 yards in this game. And it's the Tones that are getting ready to maybe see them in the playoffs. And so I see this being 33. And that's a thing. That's saying something with their defense. I think it's 33 to 20. No, 33 to 17.
17?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is Pittsburgh, correct?
Mm-hmm. I think they really get up for this game.
See, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a blowout of epic proportions. Cleveland over Pittsburgh, because by this time, Tiny Hands is probably going to be hurt,
right?
Because he's, I don't know, maybe not. I don't know anything about Pittsburgh's offensive line. I've seen nothing, read nothing.
They got better.
I've seen nothing, read nothing about it. I've looked around, and other than watching the games against twos, I mean, I can't really describe it. I'm gonna say it's gonna be 42 to 15.
The sad thing is, and I think not to get off on a tangent, just a comment. I think that the Browns' defensive line is of that ilk that it doesn't matter how good your line is. I think a good cohesive defensive line normally can beat a good offensive line.
Right.
So doesn't matter how good they got. All right. So
the next game's Cleveland at Denver.
I think that's enough.
That's a 405 kick.
Yeah, a lot of people are high on Denver. I'm not. I like Russ. I think he's got some weirdness to him for sure. But as far as his play, I think he's regressing now. Did Jerry Jeudy get injured? I don't know.
I've not seen anything about it.
Okay, that might not be the case, but just by the fact that Russell Wilson got older. Now Sean Payton being there, that's an interesting thing to see. But I think that we blow them out there. Especially, you said it was at home?
Mm-hmm. No, Denver.
Oh, it's in Denver.
Yeah.
Even
Fat
actually,
Mile High.
that's another one with the elevation change that might be a trap game.
Yeah.
But
that's where I'm going.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't ruin that then. I still think that that's a blowout. At this point, I think the team's rolling, and I see it being 38 to 10.
Okay. I'm going to say I think this is a trap game. Yeah. And because we just came off of a Cleveland or Baltimore-Pittsburgh back-to-back. Physical, we're kicking your ass all over this field. And there's going to be an emotional letdown. We're going to fly into Mile High, and we're going to come home with our tails whipped because we weren't ready for the game. That's what I think is going to happen. So I'm going to say the score is going to be like 21-17 Denver, which is a loss. So the next game, Cleveland at the Rams. That's a 425 kick.
Is another blowout. I know you're traveling across the country there.
Again.
Right. So that sucks, but I don't see our team at this point having an issue with that. I guess I just see us destroying them. I don't think that. I think we can cover Cooper Kupp. I think we have the interior offensive line to mitigate the damage that Aaron Donald.
Do you know how to mitigate Aaron Donald? Run the ball at him.
That's true. Yep. And so for me, I think that that's another high-scoring game for us. I think that we're going to win that 33-3.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not at all high on their offense this year. I know they got Cam Akers. I know they got Cooper Kupp, but
that's it.
Yeah, their offensive line is
suspect.
Right.
Okay, this is how I see this game going. I see this game going like this.
And it's in SoFi. So
our first drive, Deshaun drops back and hits Elijah Moore for like a 50-yarder. Mm-hmm. Second drive, we come out, we start running the ball, and they put DeJuan Jones in at right tackle, and he pulls left and takes Aaron Donald and rips his helmet off and beats him over the head with it. And the Browns win 7 million to 2. No, 7 million to 4. No, I can't do that either. I got the Browns winning that game. The Rams suck.
You could do 2 safeties.
Yeah, they're not getting safeties on.
Aaron Donald.
We're not giving up a safety this year. Ain't no way.
I don't think so either.
So,
not if you have Chubb.
Now, I don't think if we're up like you have a 33-3 score, I think if it's like the fourth quarter and we're up 21 points, we don't play Watson. We put DTR in. We start pulling some starters.
If
out.
the Jets game last year is any indication, we definitely shouldn't do that.
No, we shouldn't. But I'm not pulling the defense.
Yeah. All right. So we're getting towards we're either in the final quarter of the season, or we're approaching it. So we're getting ready for playoffs.
We are at week 14. Jags at Browns.
So last quarter then. All right. So this one I think is a prove it game. A lot of people are very high on the Jags this year, and I get that. But we get them at home. It's getting cold, and we got a Florida team coming up.
Well, that doesn't matter. I mean, that happened last year. Who was it came up and whooped our ass?
The Saints?
Yeah.
I don't think that's happening this time. I think we can take the Jaguars. And this is me now I'm starting to get a little bit more optimist, but I think that's going to be a game with a lot of juice.
You think so? I don't know the Jags' schedule, but I mean, I know they play in the South, and they play the Colts and the Texans, and that's going to inflate their record a little bit. But I really don't.
Well, think about it. If we're at this point and our record is that good, and the Jags playing a season like that and are in a playoff hunt, this could have some juice to it.
Yeah, but the South also plays the North, the AFC North. So they've already played the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Steelers.
Okay.
So I'm looking at it as that's at least 2 losses.
Right. So, and they get Calvin Ridley back.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm not worried about receivers with our defense. I'm just not.
Yep. I think that this is a prove-it game, and I think we win it. Not a blowout, not close. I think it's a pretty handled spread. I'm going to go with 28-17.
That's pretty much exactly what I was thinking. So, I said what I needed to say about that game. I think it's a win. I'm not sold on Jacksonville. So, that's the only game that we really have close. Yeah. Okay, Bears at Browns.
Okay, so I'll preface this by saying the Bears are my second favorite team. I, however, think that we definitely handle them. Especially, I know they got a lot better. They added a lot of pieces.
Did they get better?
At least we think they got better because they added some pieces. But I think that the Browns absolutely handled them. And I think Justin Fields has some nightmares about last year. And we beat them. I want to say, I don't think they got Tremaine Edmonds, but their defense is still full of holes. I think we beat them 38. I think Justin Fields might get a couple. So I'd say 38-17.
38-17.
Yeah.
Okay. I look at this team
with a defensive touchdown.
Okay. I have in my mind, I don't think the Bears are going to move the ball on us.
I don't see it either.
So I'm thinking 35-3, Browns.
I think they get home run plays, big touchdowns, but they don't.
Who?
Bears. That's the only way they score their points for me.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Like
Next.
Garbage time?
Well, if it's garbage time, Fields ain't going to be in there. I mean, why are you going to keep him out there in the fourth quarter if you're down 21?
That's fair.
So the next game's Browns at Texans.
There's no reason we shouldn't win that game, but what do I have? Do I have any trap games in there yet?
Your loss is Baltimore and San Fran and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'll say this is a trap game.
Okay.
And Deshaun's going back to Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely can be a trap game for that narrative. I don't think we lose by much. I think we start slow in that game, and then we kind of claw back slowly, but don't quite get there. So I think our defense still plays well, though, because they're not at all swayed by that. So I think they beat us 17-13. Our defense or our offense is a little slow that game. And Will Anderson,
Jesus Christ, you played 4 quarters.
Well, I know it. pretty slow. I need a trap game in there.
Well, I look at it like this: if we go down there and we lose to the Houston Texans, they should just fire everybody right there. I mean, well, maybe I shouldn't say it like that because I mean, I'm a Buckeye fan too, and I don't want to see CJ struggle.
Right.
So, but at the same time, I got to be real with what I'm thinking. And
imagine CJ going against that defense. That's scary.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't actually play in that game because I think they could literally kill him.
Right.
And I think that it's going to be Deshaun's going back to Texas. Last year, he did not play well in that, and he wants to prove a point.
Yep. And
the defense is going to step up and be like, dude, we got you. We're going to go in here, and we're going to make these guys look like little bitches. That's what I think is going to happen. So I'm going to go 42-3.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a horrible game for Houston.
I actually think that's going to be the case, but I need a trap game because we always have one of those in the year.
Well, I've already had a trap game, so that ain't going to be it. There's too much too much going on there.
Right.
Like, there's too many storylines there.
Yeah, and you already have so much momentum there.
Yeah. Okay, the next game. Jets at Browns.
All right, is this the finale?
No.
Oh, we got Cincy at the end.
Yep.
Okay. So Jets at Browns, this is a good game, I think. I think the Jets are going to be pretty good this year. I like Aaron Rodgers. I like Aaron Rodgers as a player, and I mostly like the guy, I think, sometimes.
I can't stand him.
But I don't necessarily have a problem with him like a lot of people do. But I think that this game, we beat them. I like our roster a little bit better. I think that they're young. I guess we're young too, but I think that
we're not as young as you think.
No, not now. You're right. They're a little bit young, other than Aaron Rodgers. I think we beat them. Pretty tight game. We beat them 30 to. Yeah, they got a good defense. I think we beat them 24 to 23. I think that might be the tightest game we have all year.
I concur.
Especially because we might be looking ahead to the Bengals.
Dude, I don't like my win-loss totals here. Okay, I agree. Garrett Wilson, I don't think you can cover him.
Yeah, he's a freak.
And matching him, I don't like Aaron Rodgers. Can't stand him as a person. Don't like him. Think he's an arrogant ass. But the good dude can play ball.
That might be one of the best rosters he's been surrounded by. And he has a defensive coach.
I think it is the best roster he's ever played with.
It is. And that defense is nuts.
I take that back. His offensive line is subject.
Yeah, you're right.
He's had a much better line in Green Bay than he does here. So,
but in the AFC North, the AFC East, actually, no, all those defensive lines are pretty good.
Right.
So we'll see.
Miami, Buffalo, New England, they're always good on defense. But I got them winning tight too, 24-23. Okay, so last game, Browns at Bengals.
Tone-setting game. I think we dismantled them.
Do you?
I do.
Okay, give me a score.
I'm going to go with 38 to... this might not sound like dismantling, but I think 38-17.
Okay, I think, just looking at my records here, we've got 2 losses.
Right.
So I think Deshaun sits, Miles sits, Demarius, or not Demarius,
I didn't think about that fact.
I think everybody sits, and we lose.
It's a battle of Ohio. How can you do that?
Because I don't care about this game. I don't care about this game. If I'm right here, we're going to be 14-3.
Right.
With a loss here, we've won the division. We have a home bye. Well, we're going to get a bye.
Right.
Because 14-3, we better be leading the league.
Right.
And we're going to be. And this is God. I look back at this, and this is completely Homer. And this is horrible.
That's what I was thinking.
I can't believe I did this, but if I'm looking at it objectively, roster by roster, and what I've seen from our team in the preseason,
right,
I can't not do this.
Yep.
That's where the whole...
If there's no excuses, this should be what it is.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I think we're going to lose. I think DTR is going to play. He's going to be throwing to God knows who by then, but Chubb won't play. I could see this being a 33-17 loss. That's what I'm putting down.
I think that I agree with you, actually, because I think if they do as well as I hope, that this is one that they said.
So you want to change your score?
No, I'll keep it because I like how my record ended.
Well, your record is
13-4 as well, right?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-3.
Oh.
Just same as me.
Yeah, well.
So that's 2 homers sitting in the doghouse.
Yeah.
Freaking going through a schedule that is probably going to be not even close to this.
No. And the thing is that there's not a team in the league that I don't think we couldn't beat. And I think, honestly, there's not a team in the league that we shouldn't beat. I think if you let if the Browns are what I think they should be this year, on paper, and if I'm optimistic and look at what we see on paper, then the only 3 teams that scare me in the league, or I think could beat us in a best of 7, I think are 49ers, Eagles, Chiefs. Those are the only ones I think. I think that we could beat Buffalo. I think if I were to do a power ranking right now, I would have us at 4 through 6, somewhere in there. And I truly could see my record 13-4. I think that's the ceiling now.
There is nobody on our schedule after looking at this now, other than San Francisco, that I think we shouldn't beat easily.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Ravens. I mean, those are rivalry games in division. They can go either way. Right. So stupid crap happens. I mean, Lamar had to crap and went back, took a crap, came out, whooped our ass. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that should have never happened, but it did. And just stupid things happen in those games. So I could see us splitting. There's no reason that we should be less than 500 in the division.
Yep.
So either way, if I lose 3 games in division, I'm still 14-3.
Right.
Because I think we should beat every other team. San Francisco, we have a better quarterback, supposedly. If what y'all think Deshaun is, we should have a better quarterback. We should have an equal receiving core. In my opinion, Njoku is a better tight end than George Kittle, receiving wise. I'd put give Kittle the edge blocking and doing the dirty work.
I think in that element, he's heads and tails better.
I don't. You need to watch Njoku.
I like Njoku a lot, but
he's to the point now where
Kittle is a left tackle tight end.
Right. Right, but he's not as good a receiver. And in our offense, we don't need the tackle at tight end.
You can just put another tackle out there.
Right.
You can put DeJuan Jones out
right. So
I haven't even thought about a package that had.
Oh, I have. That's how Lamar or Aaron Donald gets decapitated.
Or DeJuan plays fullback.
That's what I'm saying.
Whew.
So I look at our schedule, and the only game that scares me about losing in all reality is the San Fran game, because they can match us basically person for person on defense.
Well, I'll say this.
Fred Warner is a better linebacker than any linebacker we have.
100%.
Their second guy, and I don't even know his name, but I watched him in the playoff game, is better than any linebacker we have. But pound for pound, the defensive ends, I would say, are even. The tackles, we may be, I'd say even. They might have, I forget who their tackles are, but one of them's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's better than ours.
I think that their second, and I'm struggling with the names too, their second defense tackle might be better than Shelby Harris. But I think I'm expecting a big season out of Dalvin Thomas. I'm expecting a big season out of all of them. But, so this is what I'll say in closing for this part. I think the absolute ceiling is that we could not lose a game this year. The absolute floor, I think the worst that we would do is be 9-8, and that's the absolute floor. I think standard deviation wise, I think to give you like more of a median is we're probably going to end up 11-5 or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably right.
But
not yet. Edit that.
Edit this here.
Okay, I'll get it.
Go ahead with your closing.
But I could, if we're, to me, the ceiling is not 17-0. That's never going to happen.
Right.
So my ceiling is 14-3.
Okay.
My floor is 11-6. If we're less,
or 11-6 as well.
If we're 11-6, I'm happy. If we're 10-7, I'm not happy.
Right.
And now, granted, that depends. Like, if we end up losing half of our defensive line for 4 games, I mean, that all changes. But
right.
If everything goes perfect,
this is going in with what our team is.
Our team is now. The floor for me is 11-5, and that's regardless of if Watson's playing or not. That might be a hot take. I don't know. But to me, our roster, the way it sits right now, and what I've seen in preseason, there's no reason that we should be any less than 11-6. And that's...
I think that I agree with that. I think there's more variability though when you put DTR in there. But I completely agree. I think that roster is way too good to have any excuses at all. And
hang on. What are you talking about? If DTR goes in there, what? I think I missed that.
Yeah, no. I think that if DTR goes in there, I think there is a possibility of more variability because you're losing who I think could be a Pro Bowler this year at quarterback. So, if that's the case, you're going from Pro Bowler to rookie. There will be a drop off, I think, but there's still no excuse to lose because I think everything else makes up for that.
Wait a minute. I watched Mr. Irrelevant come in last year and go undefeated.
Yeah.
Through the playoff until he got hurt.
Right.
He did not lose a game.
You're right.
And if we're sitting here saying that our roster is even or better than San Francisco's roster, which I could make an argument is better.
I think that's fair.
Pound for pound or position for position, our roster is better than theirs. Because the defensive line, I'm going to call it a wash. I don't think if you were drafting defensive lines and those were the group you had to pick from, I mean, the first 4 coming off are going to be your ends.
Right.
And then your tackles. So either way, it's a wash. Our corners are better. Yep. Our safeties, I would say, are a wash.
I would say their safeties are better.
Well, it depends on what Grant Delpit we get.
Yeah.
If he is what everybody says he's been looking like,
right?
I'll give you.
Their linebackers
it's half
are
and
way
half.
better.
Their linebackers are heads and shoulders better. But we have better running back. We have equal receivers you got Debo, but none of the Ayuk's fast, but they don't really scare me.
Yeah.
So I would say our rosters are pretty even.
Right.
They have us here, we have them there. Whatever.
Our interior line is better. Their tackles are better.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, I would say it's very equal. But yeah, that's basically how I see the season breaking down. Is I expect to be 11-6 or better.
Right.
So,
I know I went straight homer with this.
Right.
Going through the roster game. That's straight homer.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, when I look at it objectively, which maybe it's not objectively because I'm a fan,
right?
But when I look at it, I don't see how we don't go, other than San Fran, 16-1.
Yeah.
I can make an argument that we should be 16-1.
Well, that makes sense because on my list I just told you, we don't play the Eagles and we don't play KC.
Right.
So, all right. Coming up next, we're going to do our predictions of how the AFC North will end. You're listening to the Chillen with the Dawgs podcast with Justice Garber and Jason Garber. You can catch our shows live Friday. You can catch it on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and more podcasting apps coming to you soon. All right, let's get back in the action. All right, so we're coming back with AFC North predictions. I'm going to let you go first this time.
All right. Good?
Yep.
Cleveland's going to win the division. I'll say a 5-1 record, even though I don't think we should sweep the division. So I'll say a 5-1 record in the division. 6 games, right? Yeah, 5-1 record in the division.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cincinnati's going to be second with a 4-2 record because they've lost us twice because we sweep them. That's
right.
What we do. And then Baltimore at 2-3 or 2-4, and then Pittsburgh sucking hind tit and right where they should be at the bottom.
There you go. And how do you think their overall schedule will be? At the end of the season, the Browns win the division, and then Cincy comes in second, but they're at 9, or they're at
okay.
10.
So
you're right.
Well, if I'm going to stick with my predictions here, which I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to, we're 14-3. Right. So we get the bye, and we get a home field play or playoffs come through Cleveland now.
Right.
I think Cincinnati's probably going to finish 11-5 or 11-6, and they'll make the playoffs. I think Baltimore is going to finish 10-7, and it's going to be a toss-up between them, the Chargers, and either the Bills or the Dolphins. Yeah, however that goes. I think that's how it's going to go. And I think Pittsburgh is going to be sitting there about 9-8, because I don't think, looking at our schedule, I mean, I think they play pretty much the same teams we do. And I don't think there's many teams on our schedule that can beat the AFC North.
Yeah, I mean, in our one-off games, we play the fourth. We ended last.
Yeah.
So we would play the fourth, whereas they would play the thirds. Right?
I think so.
So they'll have a little bit.
But they should still be playing the South.
Yeah, they will be.
Or not the AFC South, and they should be playing the NFC West. So the only teams that they shouldn't beat are San Francisco and maybe Seattle.
But they won't play it. Or yeah, you're right.
They should play.
Yeah,
we play.
Our one-off games
are the Jets, which is the East, and the Bears.
Right.
So yeah, and Denver.
Right.
So they might not play those guys. Well,
they'll play like the Chargers probably and stuff like that.
So I mean, they could lose. They could lose to them. But even at that, I mean, if they're playing the South, that's 4 games, right? Yeah. In the North,
they'll have 8 games.
They'll have 8 games that they should go 7-1, or worse 6-2. Right. So let's say, according to you, they're going to beat us in the second game, so that makes them 7-2. Right. And just a couple games here and there, they're going to win some games.
Right.
Just because Tomlin's always over 500, so that's kind of how I figure they'll be 9-8.
I think that's fair. So for me, how it goes for me is I think that I'm not going to go exactly with my prediction, because I'm going to think of the variables that could happen in this portion. I'm going to say we end up 12-5, and we don't get first in the conference. However, we still get a bye, so we'll be a 2 seed.
So we win our division.
We win our division.
Okay.
We're on top of the division going into the playoffs with some heat. I think that Baltimore ends up being just behind us at 11-6. No, sorry.
I was gonna say, come on, man.
The Bengals.
There you go.
11-6. I think the AFC is going to be a dogfight division, a lot like it was last year. And actually, the AFC in total is just going to be... All right, and we're back from that edit. So, I think that the Bengals end up having a good season. I think that the AFC, like I said, is going to be intense. There's going to be a lot of teams that I think end up being in between 7 and 11 and 10 and 7. I think there's going to be a cluster of that, especially because
there kind of was last year. I think
it was very even our conference. So I think that you're going to have the Bengals be at 11-6, probably the 5 or 6 seed, and that's how they'll be second. I think that Baltimore ends up being 9-8, and they get the last seed, the 7th seed in the playoffs. And then
at 9-8?
Yeah, I think everybody's going to be clustered together. No, yeah, I do.
Okay.
Because I think you're going to have some outliers, like Kansas City, potentially Buffalo, some of those guys. So, and then lastly, I think Pittsburgh. There's a lot of hype around them. And I don't necessarily see it, but they're never that bad. And so I think that Pittsburgh ends up being 9-8 as well, but lose out to the playoffs because of there's a tiebreaker with them having a better conference record. So I think that the Ravens make it and Steelers don't. And maybe I'm giving the Steelers a little bit too much credit there, but that's how I see that shaking out.
Me too.
Yeah.
Just records are different.
Alrighty, this has been a long one. This has been our first podcast, giving a little bit about the Browns training camp, getting ready for the season. We're really excited about the upcoming season.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you can tell. And you guys will be able to hear more from us coming up. We got the Bengals starting, so we'll probably be doing something on the Bengals here shortly.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. All right, that was our first ever show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And we ran a little bit long, but we're planning on the future, the episodes being a little bit shorter than that. We just had a lot to get in with it being, the preseason, all the preseason games, and kind of look forward to the schedule. But we really appreciate you guys stopping by and checking us out. We're going to start releasing on Fridays before the weekend so that people can get a little preview of the game, kind of some storylines throughout the week. But yeah, thanks again for coming out and checking it out. You can catch this on Spotify. We're going to be doing a whole bunch more podcast platforms, but you can also always see these on my socials. It's pretty much Justice Garber at jgarb84 on all my socials. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.